Welcome back. Today is a special episode because we are flipping the script. My dear friend, soul brother, and spiritual manifesting coach, Andy Salgado, who you might also know as the producer of Starcast Weekly on Gaia, sat down to interview me. We went straight into the deep end. We're breaking through the trauma bonds, radical self-accountability, the Earth School's duality, and a powerful download on why toxic connections are actually our inverted mirror, showing you, us, the purity of our own light. I want to give a quick heads up. The video may freeze in a few spots. It did during our Zoom call, but the audio is gold and every piece of the message comes through. Before we dive in, I want to take a second to ask you to subscribe, to leave a rating and review if this speaks to you. And make sure you share the transmission with someone who needs it. All of Andy's links are going to be in the handles down in the description. And without any further ado, guys, let's get right into it.
All right. I'm excited. I'm excited to talk to you because I know that we have amazing conversations all the time. And I thought it would just be fun if we had one today. And I mean, I know you as Crystal from Crystal Clear Coaching, but you're more than that. You are like a soul sister. Like, we just know that we divinely came together to create magic and talk and spread whatever we're meant to spread to help people raise their vibration and grow. And so I know that one of the most amazing conversations that we've had together, Crystal, is all about self-love, the dark night of the soul, and deconstructing this whole entire theme around love yourself first and self-love and how to do it. But I don't think that people truly know what that means unless they've gone to the depths of the darkest moments of themselves. And I know that you've done that. You've shared much of your journey online through your social medias, YouTube, through your video series. And so I want to first start with, when was the clear moment that you knew that self-love was like the last step, the last resort, the last thing that you needed to do because nothing else was working, where you were like, I need to dive into this last step. It might be the darkest step, it might be the hardest step, but when was that clear moment?
So the irony of that is first the beginning and the end, if you will. So for myself, and a lot similar to a lot of people, right, is our love of a lifetime is the person that comes in that we are most vulnerable to. We show every ounce and we give every ounce of ourselves to these relationships. Unfortunately, mine was a toxic relationship and was exactly the mirror I needed. Fast forward, he's the biggest blessing, most asinine thing to say. But it came down to liberating myself, to breaking free from that toxic dynamic and finding myself, like many other people, in a trauma bond and feeling unable to break away from that. And it came down to this realization of, one, understanding it wasn't healthy for either one of us. It wasn't healthy for anybody around of the whole dynamic. But it came down to, so the beginning stage really, Andy, was I had to look at my son. And if he was in the exact same scenario and situation, what would I want him to do? And obviously, I would want him to do the healthy thing. I would want him to take pride and love, accountability for his own actions and be able to walk away. And it was, can I implement that same advice to myself? Can I actually embody it? It's so much easier when we're looking out and looking into a relationship and have words of love and only caring of direction. Mm-hmm. But to actually implement that and embodying that was the first step. And that was trying to love myself and acting on that same advice as I would for my son, who I loved more than anything in the whole wide world, to act as the role model, to display that. And then as you go through it, right, because that's when the layers start breaking up. That's when you start really questioning, why would I allow myself to be exposed to such toxic behavior or in such a toxic dynamic? You know, in these relationships, they're really not the core of it. They just came to knock on all that which we've suppressed. And then you start pulling back those layers, and it goes back to that childhood wounds and understanding things from a higher perspective that you never were able to fully articulate or understand at a younger age, and why you did tolerate and what you were doing in the midst of survival, and how your whole nervous system and regulation. But to bring it full circumference back to the irony of all of this, it started out by, can I demonstrate true love like I would expect from my son to be the role model? From watching somebody I love with all my heart endure this, or else to do the wise thing, can I love myself as much as I would for my son? Yeah. To every layer of the onion being pulled back, to all coming to the one core concept. It's all about self-love.
Right.
From the childhood wounds to the bullying to, and so often I think, and this is what I really wish everybody understand, we grow up, a lot of us, there's the over abusive relationships. A lot of people, like even with their parents, like they may have grown up in a toxic relationship, or, the parents, maybe there was abuse in the home. Maybe there was substance abuse. And then there's others that would reflect and say, hey, I had a really loving, heartfelt home dynamic. But what we don't understand is there's so many needs that are integrated and are part of our programming, that until we just need to make it conscious, right? Isn't that what Freud said? So,
one aspect that you mentioned, because there's a couple layers here, and one of my favorite is the recognition of the people that we attract from our wounds end up becoming a mirror of the thing that we need to work on. And in that process, how do you, as a person, as an individual, going through the toughest moments of your life, where maybe you're in an abusive relationship or you're in a narcissistic relationship, how does one accept that other person causing that hurt is a mirror? Because I've had this conversation with clients, and they're like, that's not my mirror. I did not manifest that. That's not my mirror. No, they're just an asshole. So I would want to know from you, how do you equate that in your head to be like, no, I take full accountability. They are the mirror.
You just fully nailed it right there. I think we have to come to this realization. If we really want to heal, and that's what it was for me, I think our karma is going to continue to show up in different circumstances, situations, relationships, and it's only going to get louder on the door until we answer the call. And in order to do that, for myself personally, I know I had to take, I call it radical self-accountability. I had to recognize that I tolerated this behavior. I tolerated the circumstance, the situation, and it takes two to play. So what is it here? What was my part in the dynamic? And it's very hurtful, because especially if you are dealing with a true narcissistic or a personality, cluster B personality, there's a lot of pathological lies. There's a lot of deceit, and they're master manipulators. So I want to validate that with anybody. Unfortunately, narcissism gets thrown around like it's just
it's very loose.
But it is a genuine thing. And if you have ever genuinely encountered it, the cognitive dissonance is real. The betrayal is to the depths. And to that narcissistic empath dynamic is very real. We're talking about somebody that feels everything to the depths and has an oceanic depth to them, where somebody, on the other hand, the narcissist, is superficial. They are master manipulators. They can only cognitively understand it. And whereas you, on an emotional level, take it. So that's the first thing. And to recognize, why did we mirror them? This is such a profound question, Andy, because for me, especially in our spiritual community, we talk about this often. If you've attracted them, it must mean there's something within you that exists. And I took that to heart. And I really did. I sat with it and said, okay, there must be a level of evil within me that I have not seen, that I haven't embraced. I took it full on, like, okay, because I wanted that accountability. I wanted to graduate this lesson so badly. I never wanted to feel this kind of hurt or betrayal again.
Right.
And it was actually kind of towards the end. There's so many layers that you can self-discovery and really highlight all that. This kind of, when you go through this healing, right? It's all about remembering who you are and being able to see yourself, which brings us to the mirror. I will admit, like so with the narcissist, right? They're kind of chameleons. They easily flood and will compensate for any given situation. They are charismatic. They put on a facade. I likewise did the same. I was not true to myself. I, for a long time, was a people pleaser, which meant that I would withhold my authenticity. I would withhold my light in fear of being, one, I didn't want to be abandoned. I had the fear of not being too much, right? A lot of empaths were sensitive beings, so you're a little too muchy. Right. So so likewise, so there are a lot of similarities. Right. And that's one thing you have to admit. Like, maybe I too don't know how to be authentic. They're not authentic by means. Right. But the real core and what really, really, if anybody can take away with this, the mirror, and it was Alan Watts that said it beautifully. He said, the yin and the yang, the white fish and the black fish, similar to our world. You can't have peace without knowing evil. Right. It's the evil necessity. It's the necessity to understand, because if it was all white, you wouldn't be able to see the contrast. You wouldn't be able to distinguish the white fish from the black fish. And likewise, if you've attracted something so horrific in your life, you can't see yourself without pulling out your eyeballs. Therefore, you're going to have an image that's going to mirror you. And the way Spirit gave me in a download, as it came in actually in this moment, they showed me looking into a mirror. I was wearing a red shirt with crimson white letters, but it said Spirit. And it was this moment of the download, the epiphany, the aha, the revelation. When I was reading that, Spirit is spelt backwards. He was the inversion of what he was showing me. It's not that we are the evil that we attract, is that they're showing us to the depths of our purity that we can't see otherwise.
Oh my God. That is so brilliant. This is where I knew I wanted to create this with you, because I know that we could dive into this for hours. So I have a series of questions, and I myself probably attracted the worst relationship of my life during the darkest moment of my life that I can say was from a person that came in, swept me off my feet, and then I started seeing the elements of them separating me from my family, separating me from my friends, trying to manipulate certain situations. And it wasn't until I got out of it that I realized, oh my God, like, bit by bit, this person was deconstructing the versions of myself that were beautiful.
Yes.
In that, why do you think that the most spiritual, loving, sensitive, and sweet people, man or woman, attract the complete opposite, the narcissistic, abusive one that takes advantage of that? Because this case is all too familiar of the most like spiritual person that wants to wake up and go through their evolution, attracting the complete opposite.
It's a necessity. I think that's one of the reasons we signed up for the Earth School. It's here that we get experience the duality.
Yeah.
And I think in order to know your angelic beauty that you have to offer, the big sensitive heart, the love, the compassion, the healer, the servant, whatever it may be that somebody resonates with, you have to understand what you are not. And you can't know it without not knowing it. You can't know who you are without knowing who you are not. And I think that's the ultimate reason. And also, this is not a part of the conversation, but I do think it's relevant. I think a reason a lot of people stay in a mediocre lane, if you will, is because to fill depths It is absolutely devastating. Like, say you want enlightenment, you want spiritual growth, you want to feel love, you want to feel authenticity. Yeah. Well, in order to feel that higher paradigm, you've got to be able to sink into the lower levels of apathy, grief, depression. And nobody wants to feel that. And it's totally valid. But you can't know what this feels like without knowing its the absence of it. It has the discernment. And I think that's why we find so many people today that are living in mediocrity, because they would rather suppress their feelings and say, well, I rather just stay where it's kosher. Like, I rather not feel the depths of that. So I'm not going, but, and because of that, and that's fine, it's their choice, it's their journey. But because of that, they're also limiting themselves from feeling the utmost expansion of love and capacity that they are fully able to.
Oh my God, that's brilliant. That's brilliant, because this goes into the topic that the idea, the concept that to have the life that you truly want, or the things that are exceptional, like beauty, love, or whatever you deem as that in your life, you have to be willing to do the uncomfortable things that get you out of this medium growth state to be able to have that. What I've noticed with a lot of people is they want the spiritual growth, the evolution, the success, the money, without having to do the deep work that launches you towards that. Kind of like an arrow. The more you go back and the more that you dive into the darkest depths, the faster, or the longer the length it would launch you towards. And so in that, when we were discussing this about yin and yang and the opposites and experiencing these aspects of the Earth School, what do you think the result is of a person that doesn't go through the journey if they weren't to do that?
Well, I guess this kind of really comes down. Okay. This comes down to personal belief and how people resonate. You know, some people, if you believe in reincarnation,
yeah,
I do. And that has been, and I admittedly, like, to anybody that's watching, I did not grow up in a spiritual community so much. It was the dogma of religion, which I have nothing against religion either, right? Like, if there's one thing I want to just clarify for anybody, if there's anything that God, divine, the spark, the essence wants, is for you to get closer to him. So that means that you get closer to him in prayer in a church or at the temple or out in the middle of the field. They don't care. Like, that's all I believe the divine is looking for, is for relationship with you. So there's no judgment on any aspect of that, but it does come down to, I think, the person's personal beliefs. And I do believe we have a creator that loves us so much that we are here to, I think the ultimate soul growth, or the soul purpose, is to ascend, to reach Christ-like consciousness, to reach enlightenment, to see our full capacity in all aspects. And one of the reasons we're on Earth is because it does ricochet our ascension, because we do have that duality. Whereas on the side of the, I don't know that we have that. I also believe our soul, based on our consciousness, if we use the emotional graph, are you familiar with what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That is a level of measuring our own consciousness. So wherever we are on any given topic, we have room for extension. So if I feel upset when we talk about politics, well, if I feel angry and I get so caught up in it, which is fine because we all do, or else a family dynamic, we have room for growth. That's why we're here. So if we choose in our life path to suppress and not feel all into it, and we never allow ourselves to have that awakening because I think it's in the darkness that we are called back to our soul and the remembrance of why we came. If we don't allow ourselves to do that, I think we'll go back home, wherever that home is, to whoever. And I think that level of consciousness that when we leave here will be our soul growth. But I also think that if you haven't allowed yourself to take advantage of this duality, of all the emotions that are felt here, we also lose the opportunity in this lifetime, I want to say in particular, because I don't think that it's limited to just this lifetime. If we're infinite mortal beings, I think we do have a creator that loves us so much and will give us the free will to come back and try again if we want. But if you don't take advantage of this lifetime, of what is being presented in here, you'll probably get a chance to do it again. And actually, for me, that's a huge motivator to let's dive deep and let's do the work, because I don't want to do the hard stuff again.
So you're essentially, a big part of it would be that essentially whatever work we might not do in this lifetime, we might end up repeating it and experiencing it in future lifetimes. Like the same lesson would show up over and over and over again.
And no different than it shows up now, Andy. Think about that. How many times did you attract toxic relationships?
Right.
Until the last one really came in and shook your world, and you're like, no more. But until then, also, it's a gradual increase. I don't think the creator or our higher selves is let's go in there. Let's just see if we can give them some nudges. Are they going to get the wake up call? Thus, that's my new way of living. May all my lessons be as painless as possible. May I live in a state of consciousness that when something gets uncomfortable, I can put a halt in it and say, okay, there's something here being asked to be seen, to be witnessed, to be heard, to be grown through, so we can grow through and evolve. And if we don't ignore that uncomfortability, and if we suppress it, then it's just going to keep on getting louder, regardless of what it is. So that's my belief. And I'd be actually curious about your belief. What do you think happens if we don't?
I think that I'm a huge believer in reincarnation, and I'm a huge believer in everything shows up for your soul's purpose. And there is a book, and I can't quite quote who the author is, but it's called The Evolution of Consciousness. And it shows you that actual graph of where you are in your consciousness, in your life. And so I think the reason, if you were to follow the Kabbalah of, a certain amount of lifetimes, the reason that we're here on Earth is to learn whatever lessons come up on this plane of existence, that then when we go back, maybe there might be a period where we actually don't come back here at all, and we just stay on that side. So what is, on the topic of self-love and your personal experience of all the things you've been through, what would be the number one biggest advice that you have to a man or a woman that is going through that narcissistic relationship right now, and what would you want them to know?
If you're going through the relationship, if you're going through, obviously, first, if you're in a genuine no contact, or gray rock is obviously going to be, you don't want to keep on feeding the toxins. Any kind of, it's an addiction. Let's make that very clear. It's not love. It's an addiction. It's a trauma bond. And they say it's equivalent to a heroin going cold turkey. So first and foremost, totally validate the journey. It is gnarly, it is hard, and sometimes you wonder if you're ever going to be the same. If you've been stunted, your life force has been drained. But to hold strong, and there's a few different analogies. It's you can stay in the relationship and have the slow, prolonged death of suffocation, or else you can rip that Band-Aid off and have full-blown surgery and feel excruciating pain, which many are going through if they are going through the process. And they say sometimes you can just take it one day at a time. Andy, there were moments that this pain was so, if I had moments on breaks, I would go out and I would cry. I was meditating, I was crying, I was doing all I could to play mom, to be an adult, do job. And I just say, if you can make it through 1 second, sometimes you just need 1 second, and surely you can make it through the next second. Sometimes if you put it in the perspective of a day felt too long. But if I could just focus on the 1 second, it adds up. And if you can do 1 second, you can surely hold on to the next. That would be my advice. And then also remember, as you're going through this, that self-accountability, to be able to take responsibility for your role. Because when you do that, you also have the power to liberate yourself from any victim mentality. Yes, you probably were preyed upon for your good heart. I will validate that as well. But you also have the opportunity of wisdom laying within your hands that is going to take it full circumference and just magnify your growth. And it's a process. It doesn't come overnight. There's so many messages. There's so many growth opportunities that are waiting if you if you dedicate yourself and know that you are worthy of every excruciating moment, because I'll leave it at this. I'm just going to wrap it up. I'll say this. Trauma changes you, but healing transforms you. Hold on to that. You will not be the same.
Good. Trauma changes you, but healing transforms you. That is beautiful. If somebody wanted to work with you, where can they find you?
They can find me at crystalclear.one. That's my website. And I have my email over there. And then also, if they want to just follow my content, I am on Crystal Clear. I think it's 1919 at YouTube. That's where I've been putting a lot of my content and effort in. I also have Facebook and Instagram. So
thanks for talking with me today.
My pleasure. I look forward. Let's do another of these.
I love you.
I love you.
Okay.
Namaste.